Okay, we are almost in the home stretch, right? So we've done the sales budget, production budget, all the subsidiary direct labor and materials budgets, which gives us our unit cost. We use that to calculate our finished goods inventory, which then went into our cost of goods sold. Now, the only other thing we need in order to get to our income statement is to do a selling and administrative expense budget. Okay, now this is similarly to the manufacturing overhead budget. This is a little complicated because we break selling and administrative expenses down into fixed and variable components. And the variable components, things like sales commissions and freight and supplies, we assume that those vary with the levels of sales, right? So our variable overhead, as you remember, our manufacturing overhead varied with the level of labor hours we were using. On the selling and administrative side, our variable expenses will vary with the level of sales. Okay, this will become a little bit more clear when we look at some of our example. Okay, here is our assumptions. Okay, so remember our unit sales are as they were before, and the price is $10 per t-shirt, right? And what did I just do? Undo, whatever that was. There we go. Variable expenses are $10 per unit sold, or I'm sorry, 10 cents per unit sold. And salaries are given. They stay the same per quarter. Utilities are also given, and then advertising, although it changes over the course of the year, it's still a fixed expense. It's not going to vary with the level of sales. So although it is not constant, it's still considered to be a fixed expense. So here are all these assumptions that I wrote in the spreadsheet, written out. And then you'll notice that these advertising expenses that change over each quarter, I've written them out in columns to make it easy to do the calculations. Okay? So here's what the budget looks like. It's a little bit more detailed than some of the other ones. I'm going to go ahead and unhide my blank, and let's figure out how to calculate each of these lines. All right, so our sales, we pick up from up above, from the very first one of these, okay? And our variable expenses, our variable selling administrative expenses are this 10 cents per unit sold. We are going to make that an absolute cell reference. So our variable selling and administrative expenses, therefore, are that 1,000 units times 10 cents a unit. And then we just pick up these fixed expenses. All right, so salaries, watch what I can do. I go B, and I will also, we'll do that. Utilities, I can just drag that down, right? That's going to pick up that $50, and it's going to move the cell reference down one row. Depreciation, I have to pick that up from there. We're going to make that an absolute on the column. And then advertising, I can pick those up and just allow the cell reference to move. I don't have to make that an absolute cell reference. Okay, my total is going to be the sum of all of these. 1,720, and so therefore we've got 1,720 in fixed, 100 in variable, and so we can go ahead and sum those up, and that'll give us our total selling and administrative expenses for the year. Again, just like I did before, being lazy, I did that whole column. Now I can go ahead and pull those out for all 4 quarters. Let's just eyeball them and make sure that the numbers I'm getting make sense. I mean, in this example, I can compare them to what I see as the right answer over here on the PowerPoint. But in your, normal homework, what you want to do is just make sure that the numbers sort of make sense. Make sure that this is picking up what it's supposed to, that this is picking up what it's supposed to, etc. Okay, so now we can go ahead and add up our totals for the year. There. And you can do that in any way you want. The auto sum is a little bit easy. We'll auto sum there. And copy that down. Sum that. And sum that. So there it is. There's your selling and administrative expense budget. This is very similar to the way that we calculated overhead. The difference is that the variable selling administrative expense moves with the units sold. That's like commissions and shipping and things like that. And in the overhead budget, although we did break overhead into variable and fixed overhead, our variable overhead moved with the labor hours. So there's that, okay? All right.